Tomas Scheckter is an interesting character in IndyCar history. He was the subject of the first all-IndyCar episode posted back in June of 2021, and had a roller coaster ride of a career. Hell, in his first 3 IndyCar seasons, he drove for 3 separate teams. He would drive for Red Bull Cheever in 2002, then Chip Ganassi in 2003, and after that, he would drive for Panther in 2004, where he would have a horrid time. It's a story that involves retirements, driver swaps, inexperience, extreme pressure, and cataclysmically horrible luck. Today, I tell the tale of Tomas Scheckter's dreadful 2004 IndyCar season. While Scheckter was in his debut season, Sam Hornish Jr. was your reigning IndyCar champion, and was on track for a second championship in a row with Panther Racing. The team was decent with Scott Goodyear before 2001, but it was Hornish's entry into the team that propelled them to high-level success. In 2003, Hornish was in a very different spot. After his victory in the 2003 Indy 500, Penske's Gilles de Ferran announced his retirement from IndyCar, leaving that Penske seat to be filled by Sam Hornish. The move was a done deal before the season finale in Texas, and another done deal by this point was that Scheckter was out at Ganassi. The pieces would fall into place in January of 2004. Panther Racing would have a 2-car lineup. British driver Mark Taylor had won the Indy Lights Championship in dominant fashion 1 year prior, and was to start his rookie IndyCar season alongside Tomas Scheckter. Now, in hindsight, putting Scheckter into the team leader role in his 3rd IndyCar season was really a recipe for disaster. Tomas was replacing a 2-time champion, and had come off the back of a widely ridiculed year where he underperformed in championship-winning equipment, and was meant to be in the team leader role against a rookie teammate. This was bad news for both driver and team, and as you're about to find out, this year really couldn't have gone any worse. Race number 1 of the year at Homestead Miami Speedway. Although this was his first race with the team, it was really his best of the season. He would qualify 3rd behind pole sitter Buddy Rice and Alex Barron, lining up alongside Dario Franchitti. As for the race itself, he would finish 5th, a pretty decent performance, especially in comparison to teammate Taylor, who crashed out. Many thought that this was the start to a possibly championship-winning season. Instead, this would be his only top 10 of the whole year, and his lone lead lap finish. Phoenix was looking like it was going to be another good result, as he was running 3rd with about 20 laps to go. But when Robbie Buell crashed in turn 4, Scheckter would slow down and then immediately get punted by Dario Franchitti, sending both of them into the wall and knocking the both of them out of the race. Unlike the previous 2 races, however, Tomas and Panther laid an egg in Motegi. He would crash in practice, start 16th, and run into gearbox troubles early on, leaving him in 13th, 16 laps down by the checkered flag. Indy would be a slight reprieve. He pulled off this daring move into turn 3, but when the checkered flag came out 20 laps early due to rain, Scheckter was 1 lap down in 18th. Sure, it was a bad finish, but he really showed some solid speed in the month of May. And compared to what you're about to see for the rest of this season, the fact he even saw the checkered flag was a positive. For the next 12 races, he would only finish 3 times. After Indy, the series went to Texas, and it wasn't a good weekend for Scheckter. He would pick up suspension damage after hitting the wall, attempting a bold pass on his former teammate Scott Dixon. The suspension damage he picked up took him out of the race before even a quarter's distance. Richmond was another depressing outing, as he was involved in 2 separate accidents on the day. First was Sam Hornish, who would spin and hit the wall after he made contact with Scheckter. Then later into the race, we'd have 2 accidents at once. Mark Taylor would crash with Dario Franchitti, and while trying to avoid his teammate, Scheckter would do a half spin and hit Adrian Fernandez's side pod, breaking his suspension and ending his night early once again. He would finish 4 laps down in Kansas, leaving him in 15th. He then DNF'd the next 2 races, one from a crash and the other from a gearbox failure. The 04 season at this point is already one of the worst team collapses ever, as this year has been abysmal for Panther. While Scheckter was either running in the front or running into issues, Mark Taylor had such a poor start to the year that he was fired by the team and replaced by Townsend Bell. This misery would come to a head in Michigan. On lap 38, Scheckter made contact with Toru Takagi in the pits, sending Scheckter briefly into the air before landing and running into his pit crew. Thankfully, none of the Panther pit crew members were seriously injured, and Scheckter was still in the race, albeit multiple laps down at this point, Later into the race, Tomas had made back up to the front of the field and was looking to score another top 10. That was until he ran out of gas on lap 155. He would eventually finish 3 laps down. In Kentucky, the Panther cars were fast, but after his clutch failed in the pits, Scheckter took the fuel hose with him and would be out of the race, but thankfully uninjured from the fire that then ensued. Pit troubles would bite again in the next race at Pikes Peak, this time breaking a half shaft leaving the pits. After a 13th place finish at Nazareth, the final 3 races of the year would all end in DNFs. He would crash with Jacques Lazier in Chicagoland, then crash with Thomas Enga in Fontana, and would have one last mechanical issue in the second Texas race, ending the year with his 10th DNF. So after all of that, the one phrase I could use to describe this year for Scheckter would be, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. The whole team didn't have a pot to piss in all year when it came to luck. This season seems like the plot of a Monty Python sketch, but as you've seen, it was all real. With 1 top 10, 10 DNFs, only 32 laps led, an average start of 11.1, and average finish of 16.7, along with a 19th place points finish, this year can't be labeled as anything other than dreadful. He was the lowest of all full-time drivers that season, even getting beat by his old teammate Mark Taylor, who had such a poor season himself, he retired from racing altogether at year's end and won't return until 2022. To put that into context, I lived through the first 17 years of my life without Mark Taylor stepping into a race car just because of how bad his year was, and he still outscored Scheckter by 2 points. Thomas Schechter's 2004 season started off as him enjoying a nice beer next to the ocean, but as the tide rolled in, it divulged into him getting hit by a falling anvil, stung by a jellyfish, struck by lightning, and then stabbed in the eye. I'm not superstitious, quite the opposite really, but before Thomas Scheckter signed that deal to race with Panther in 2004, he must have walked under a ladder. Thank you for watching, and have a great afternoon.